I am in a bit of quandary. I do not know how to start this morning's conversation. So please be patient. So on my way here, I was watching this truck right next to me, and it had some lettering on it. And in my moment of amusement, like if this truck was ever held up, they would tell him, "Do not move." And then I saw our friend bringing donuts. It was a Krispy Kreme donut. I wonder what happened there. Did it come to fruition? They waved flagged them down and said, "Give me a box of donuts." So it was like quandary. Where do I start? But we'll start about just saying, as I speak to you, just recognize I speak from inspiration, and as I discover these words and thoughts, they are just for all of us, me and you included in there. And perhaps the other small quandary is still, I would like to start a little bit interactively, so be alert. Is there, so what's on the other side? Amy, if I were to ask you what's on the other side, how would you respond?
You know, people's energy that have transformed to the other side.
Wonderful.
They're all there.
Wonderful. Our lady in the back with the vest on.
Well, that's where everybody went. That's
Okay.
where the party is.
Good, good, good.
Well,
Peace and love.
Fantastic. What about you, man?
I would say love and family members.
Fantastic. And yourself?
It's just like all of us without our physical body.
Nice. And the New York gentleman?
I would say it's a different dimension where things that cross over go to. It includes animals and people and everything.
Right. And the last but not least, lady in the shirt tucked in the neck.
Oh, everything everybody said, I liked it all.
And then there's that,
Yeah.
right? But at the part of being saying is what's on the other side, you know? Very easily we just go into the dimension, which is a non-physical dimension. But what about us? What's on the other side? You know? And I do speak with a lot of inspiration and philosophy of the natural law, but that is to be discovered. But as I was driving in, right before the Krispy Kreme truck was this thought, what's on the other side? And I was just listening to it, and I would just sit in that thought sometimes to just marinate it. So once again, the beauty of that answer of interactiveness is nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It is how we perceive things, right? But the interesting part of the frequency of the voice that said to me, what's on the other side? So here we are. Everybody that I see is on the other side of me. And as you see, I'm the other side of you, right? And I'm just bringing to the relevant construct of understanding, because before we see that non-physical side or investigate the non-physical side, we have to deal with this living physical side of life, right? So if you go back in your own past, present, and possibly in the future, you would understand there are a lot of things that are now on the other side. And in the present moment, in this very moment, this is the now that is being created for this moment. We really don't know what's coming next. Once we leave, then it will become the now, and this will become the other side of this conversation, right? So you have to understand we have a lot of people that we come to know. We started with them as a point of contact. Some became friends, and sometimes those friendships went the other way, and maybe we are not so good friends. So they're on that other side of the equation, the other side of our learning curve and experience, right? Families do come with differences. Family comes with, just like we are here today as a family. So all this aspect of the other side, what's going on the other side? Things are always changing. That movement of life is nothing but stimulating a change. So where we are sitting today, I can tell you there have been several people when I came into the very first contact with them, I probably thought this is not going to last too long. But I know over time, the other side of fact of that is we became good friends, or we became amicable friends to get the work done and move on, just go our own merry ways. And a part of their recognition is this life is a good reflection of the non-physical life. And we have to understand wherever this other side is evolving in our lives, how do we want to see it, right? And in that participation is where all the choices and all the aspects of the natural laws just come into play and overwhelm us in some ways, or ground us in many other ways. And it all depends on our ability to perceive things as they are evolving. Are you with me so far? Right. Don't be on that other side where you're not. So investigating your own current circumstances and the relationships that are being created thereof gets to define which side you are wanting to see or which way you are wanting to see that specific side of you, not somebody else out there. And I have grown a little bit more firmly in understanding everything that I experience is merely a reflection of me. So what am I wanting to see on that other side? Or what part of me is being reflected for me to pay attention to? And I'm just as human as anybody, and you are just human as I am. And it's inevitable to skip paying attention every once in a while. And that's where the breakdowns and the errors happen, when we just take the mind off. Just even for a fraction of a time. And that's all it takes. But a part of understanding is, where is the participation and your relationship with anything, at any given time. So what are we creating in this lifetime? Part of my stimuli is also thinking about all the pioneers that have come for spiritualism, and then if I expand my view of any other religion or any other philosophical journey of any aspect, they have been they've gone through their own lenses and their own ability to see into things, and they have presented their thoughts and ideas that were best available to their perceptive value or their receptivity. But where are we moving from our growth? So if I were to say, if you're looking at a light fixture, even though you may be looking at the same thing, maybe you have different words to describe it. Me, coming from a whole different culture, sometimes I have a total different way of phrasing what exactly I'm wanting to say. Then I have to recalibrate to see how I would like to say it from this way of life. So I have to catch myself every once in a while and say, hold on, let me rephrase what I have to say. So I catch myself in conversation. But the part is, in the momentum of life, we are moving so fast, we are vibrating at such a high rate, it's easy to slip through the cracks and it's easy to let things fall off. And that is where all the other things on this other side of the equation that are dissatisfactory, disagreements, not being on the same page, not being able to see things equally, are still part of the relationship creature. It's still part of the relationship dynamic, but just it sits on a different tangent of the other side. Not this side, maybe that side. But still is a sum total of who we are, where we are in things, is there. So the journey of spiritualism is non-dogmatic journey. There's no creed, there's no nothing. We just dance to our own tunes. We have way more than free thinkers. And sometimes it's hard to create that synchronicity of thought sometimes. And that's another part of this, is who's on the other side of this conversation listening to what I have to say. Maybe it's not even relevant to you. But for now, you are on the other side of the spectrum. If I have to give an offering, you're on the receptive side of it. Now, processing becomes a whole interplay. What you take and how you apply it or how it speaks to you is a whole process of what's on the other side of how it's going to play out for you in your own lives. So everything is evolving at all times. Nothing is stationary. And we think we'll sit down and let it be, which is fine and respectable, but it's still time. Everything is still in motion. Everything is moving, is there. So I would say today, October 23rd, right? Today's October. I have to remind myself. This retirement or not working a regular job is the whole fun thing. Weekdays are mixed up. So October 23rd is not the same October 23rd as last year. It's much different. Right? The theories of evolution say everything is evolving. And the question would be, have I evolved from that side to this side of my growth? Where am I in all those things? Right? And understanding the nature of evolving is a never-ending process. Is there. I was reading, I don't have a good recall at this very time, but I was reading a old text. It could have been Swedenborg. They were saying is our dream state is set up to give us education about what's to come. And sometimes it's an educational platform to know where our next birthplace is, so that when we are born into that scenario, we are not startled by what's going on, things look familiar. And that's a different version of what's on the other side, not just the non-physical world, the world that we are stepping into. So anybody that understands the theories of reincarnation or karmic philosophy, you would understand everything is to do whatever is the right thing to do so that we have the better, simpler life into the next journey or the next incarnation. But spiritualism doesn't really heavily talk about reincarnation. But at the same time, regardless of that, we do understand our past lives. We do have those tie-ins. We have a parallel dimension sometimes running into our stories. So that's another version of that other side is what's on that other side is there. So thinking from that perspective, that passage for me was intriguing, and I came upon it almost 2 years ago. So I still don't remember my dreams, and maybe the purpose is not to remember the dreams, not to overwhelm myself with what may be accessible to me or to all of us. But now I go to bed, somebody's educating me, I'm going to be ready for wherever my next journey is. So the enticement of not only the non-physical side, but it's also the enticement, excitement of where the next one is coming. And I will tell you very grinningly that I am gently aware where I'm heading next lifetime when I'm finishing this journey. I'm gently aware of my starting point, so there was a little moment of excitement. Yes, everything is fine. But I do not know the other details. I'm excited to see whatever comes along in that part. But that's, once again, that is this aha of whatever I'm experiencing on this side, how am I evolving into myself, right? And I think that's the big part of it. I do know I can be very stubborn and hard-headed and strong-willed if I have to be, but that's also the part of my growth is it worthy of being that, or just let it be. And sometimes let it be is easy way of saying the path of least resistance will push you wherever you need to be. So you take the struggle out of it, isn't there? So sometimes it's okay to let things fall apart, or let them rise you to wherever you need to be in that time period. So on the other side of this conversation is that wonderful hall where there's good smelling food is there, plus that box of donut is there, it smells pretty good. So that is another side of it. How are we nurturing our physical bodies and our spiritual body and our emotional body and our mental spaces? What are we doing? Are we ever once in a while going with a fine-tooth comb, doing some combing to get things out of there that don't belong there? And I'm pretty sure, like us in the human experience, we are holding resentments and small disappointments. Are we trying to take care of that? Are we trying to move them along, bring them along in our journeys? And that part of the exploration is a wonderful piece to go in there. I have come to believe, and I'm just adding into this part, I've come to believe this lifetime, as whatever this is very important. And I hope nobody's waiting to pass on whenever they pass on and then try to figure things out. If you have to really put in the hard work, do it now. Because more and more I'm observing the other side. Our review of life can be a 5-second process if we are doing what we were supposed to do. I'll give you an example from my session. This gentleman came forward. He said, I know what I did. I had no problems with what I did. I had to do what I had to do. And he was gone. In other words, he didn't stay on the review of life. And the person sitting across from me said, their life was not easy. I said, but they accepted their reality. They came to terms with it while they were living. So they're gone. They don't have any need to review their life or any critical overview. And that's that. And my repeated 10 years of work in the spirit world, the judgment is the first thing that is removed from our experience the moment we pass. We cannot discern judgment. So it has become more evident, and this happened just not too long ago. And a part of me is like, that's a fascinating part of the other side is, if you're okay with what you did, the choices you made, there's not a big review of life. But I would remind one more time, if you have to put in time, please put in time in this journey so that afterlife is quick, short, and smooth. Is there. So say sorry as often you can, say I love you as often you can, and just carry on, because time flies by. So the part of the other side that excites me is I have still to figure out which way spirit work or the mediumship works for me. Even after doing it for 10 years, there's not a dull moment. Cannot have a measured way of reading or understanding the spirit. I have to be open and receptive, because they just mess around with me, and I know they do that with everybody. But I just know they have not let me sit still for one moment. Every experience is different. But that enticement of the other side is my ability to trust the other side, the non-physical side, has become remarkably firm. I can doubt myself, but I cannot doubt them. Here's the question. Here's the interesting one. Even though I'm delivering the information from the other side, I can doubt myself, but I cannot doubt them. Now I'm investigating why am I doubting myself. Once again, I come from a different background. Sometimes I have to catch myself paraphrasing just the right way or giving the right intention behind that journey. So on this side of life is you and I, and we are creating. Now here's an interesting thing. We are also, two things, we are also diluting a lot of things that we are doing, because we are just trying to be in that ease mode, or that mode that flows easily through us. Is there. Plus we are also breaking down things so finitely that we are just pushing ourselves to have absolutes in the future years, that we will have no choice but to accept things as absolutes, because we have broken down the general overall feeling that does create expansion. Because if it's any finite or absolute theory, there's no left, right, there's no ifs and buts, there's no probabilities are there. Finite and our absolutes are just firm. And that's, I feel over time, we will come to a point where everything becomes finite. This is what it is, or it's not. So that expansion somewhere within the consciousness, I wonder if it's going to cease. And that's the other side of my reflection, is what is happening to the consciousness. What is happening to the side of life that speaks to us on a wholesome level for now. How it's going to communicate with us then when everything becomes so finite and absolute. And that's the part of my intrigue. Small drive from home to here. All these bubbles were just bubbling up into the mind of saying, on this side of life, am I allowing myself to be open and receptive for that expansion? Sometimes I have no idea how it's going to happen. Really don't have a clue. But it does happen that way every once in a while. Things cannot be so finitely calculated. They go the way they are supposed to go. Is there? I'm pretty sure none of you have experienced that, right? You were planning a certain way and it went the way it had to go. And we keep questioning that. So when you are investigating life as we go on into the remainder of the day or the remainder of the year, I hope you recognize to ask that question. If I'm on this side, what am I doing on the other side? And maybe push a little bit harder to say, am I able to see my reflection in somebody? A part of me, am I able to emulate or see their part in me as well? It's an exchange. And the beauty of the relationship is everything becomes a relationship at that point. How do we create a relationship? Even the things that we don't like or we are distasteful about, even that is a relationship because we've defined it to be that. And just because of that, it has become a relationship for us. So I have repeated this story here a few times, and I feel is appropriate time. At my workplace, I had this other side of me that kept challenging me. And now we are pretty good friends. We don't speak, but we speak about 3 times a year. It's a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Birthday. But that same individual was on the other side that we couldn't stand each other. We could not deal with each other. And we never figured out why, but one day we came to a realization it was not important, and that was it. But that's the part what I'm saying is this human life is not really wanting us to go far beyond looking for that true non-physical side, because everything we have to understand by that non-physical is right here, in this physical presence. So we are more in rhythm with this side, we will have no problem with the other side. It becomes much closer, much clearer, because our minds are clear, our consciousness is empty, our thoughts are flowing freely, we are not struggling with any type of relationship-based interactions. Everything is just so free-flowing and moving. You know, I can give you a good analogy of clogged artery. But think of that, on this side of the blockage and that side of the blockage, it's a matter of how you see it thriving or dissipating or creating a damaging influence. It's just a simple analogy, but that's what is sitting here. But that part of the journey of exploration in any given aspect of your life should understand the relationship. Now we do talk about understanding the purpose and intention behind everything. And I will say this very politely, firmly, we all have pursued something with the greatest of purpose and intention. And it did not go the way we thought it was supposed to go. You understand that? We're trying our darn sincere best, but once again it found its own way of figuring it out, which is also saying the other side has to participate with this side of the purpose and intention. And we have to participate with their purpose and intention when that's being offered to us. So it's a mutual interactive relationship. This life is very critical, fragile, because it's such an evolving process. So, what are you going to do on the other side of this dialogue? Right? So, in preparation of that bit, here's something that is being inspired fresh this morning. I wrote a little piece of poem. If you were not aware, I still know English, I write poetry. So these are the words to this poetry. This was written this morning at 7:55 a.m. The title is If You Were, and it goes like this. Choice is all we have. We all have. If you were a ray of sunshine, could you tell which one you would be? If you were a drop of the water, could you tell which one you would be? If you were a wisp of wind, could you tell which one you would be? You are consciousness. How do you tell it apart from the rest? You are energy. How do you identify from the other? You are vibration. How do you differentiate then from the other? Choices, all we have, we do. The choices to be identified as this or that push us to separation. And with evolution, the choice to separate has evolved too. Is it right or wrong? Even that is a choice, identified to be a voice. I wonder if in this moment our choices disappear. I wonder if in this moment our choices disappear, removing options and other choices to delineate and separate. Life becomes basic, simplified in polarity, strengthening solidarity, finding it easy, lessening the need to please and appease. We all have choices. And that's how I would like to summarize this conversation, is on this side or the other side, we all have choices. And like I was saying, is we are breaking down our understanding of the consciousness so minutely that it has given us too many choices. There were only 4 colors to choose from, 4 cars to choose from, 4 versions of houses to choose from. We make life simple. Right? Because that's all is available. And then there's whatever is available, then we work within that parameter. So taking the moment to understand the times of depression, times of war, does create a very limiting environment. And we've just recently come in our own version of limiting environment in the last couple of years, understanding sometimes what we have, we make do with it. We make the best of the circumstances. And it's not that we don't have enough, but we have more freeing mind, more time to think and pause and just go with what is better to do for us, our growth and our own journey. And there's so much more time to be interactive. My other choice, what I was reviewing later on because it was finalized, somebody said, that is it, so I stopped there. But I was very curious, if somewhere electronically we can only use our gadgets for a certain period of time throughout the day, if that was available on the other side of that choice, that automatically we can only use it for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours at night. It automatically dies off. What are you going to do then? Would you know how to take care of you? How would you work with the chatter of your mind and your own behavior? Television goes off also during that time. There's nothing but dead silence in you. Would you know how to address that? Even the books are not available. What would you do then? Think about it. Think about what could be on that side of this possibility. And thank you.